good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time it is when you hear this message, I pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. Once upon a time, I was a caseworker. And in that capacity, I would take my clients to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, AA, or Narcotics Anonymous meetings, NA, or both. Sometimes I had guys who would go to both, or AA and NA. And I did this for a couple of years, and so I attended a good number of meetings. And this was my introduction to actually doing recovery work. Now, as part of my master's degree studies, we were exposed to recovery and intervention, but it was when I started working as a caseworker that I got to see it in motion. And it was a very, very enriching experience for me. And one of the things that I took away from the experience was a phrase that they used there frequently, which was stinking thinking. There's a lot of storytelling in these meetings. You know, naturally people just tell their story about some kind of a binge they went on, or different episodes and capers that they had while they were under the influence, and people were at various stages in their addiction, right? But invariably, in every meeting, you would hear somebody get to a point where they were getting an aha moment, and they'd say, yeah, I thought this and I thought that, and then it would creep in. They say, my stinking thinking, right? Because thinking is our superpower as people, but you know, you don't perceive things as they are. You perceive things as you are, right? You don't perceive things as they are. You perceive things as you are. It's not reality. It's your reality. That's what you're responding to, right? There's a, you know, we say 10% of what you see is what is actual. The other 90% is your perception. And when you're addicted, your perception is distorted by definition. By definition. So you're paranoid. You've got a this inflated sense of importance. You've got these wild notions and fantasies of revenge, of, you know what I mean, of retribution, and like you're playing out all these dramas and unresolved conflicts and traumas and wounds from your childhood or different points in your life when you were disempowered, or things you've been trying to escape from. Everybody's story is a little bit different, but I think you understand where I'm coming from. When you're addicted, you're unable to, you've been inhibited, and so you're not really processing what's going on within you well enough to even discern that you don't know what you're seeing, right? That's the problem with addiction. That's one of the symptoms anyway, is that you lose your capacity to really appreciate that, oh wait, I'm tripping, basically. You lose the capacity to say that when you're addicted. Now, the value of this is that American society as a whole, the culture of the United States as a whole, is highly obsessive, highly addictive. Americans are the most addicted people I've ever encountered in the world. And I've been to more than a handful of different countries. And I've traveled across more than a handful of cities and states here in the United States. So I know American people pretty well. And I've spent enough time abroad to get a big perspective, right, on these are the trends of how Americans show up in Latin America, how Americans show up in Africa, how North Americans, how people from the United States show up even in Canada. Even in Canada, who they're very, very similar to us. But even in Canada, you can see the distinction, right? And it's not to poo-poo Americans. It's just to say that, you know what? We need to get a broader perspective on who we are and what we're doing as American people in order to understand our stinking thinking and the ways that it's creating problems for us. This is particularly essential for African Americans because of what W.E.B. Du Bois was telling us. This is what W.E.B. Du Bois was trying to teach us through the concept of double consciousness. Double consciousness isn't like being bilingual where you can see things, and communicate one way and then another way. When Du Bois is talking about double consciousness, he's talking about being seeing yourself through the eyes of the oppressor. That's what he's talking about with double consciousness, and he's saying that is the problem of the 21st century. That for the African in America, we've got to learn how to make this distinction and take that lens away, right? To see ourselves and see the world without this distortion, right? Just like the addicted person. You got to be able to get sober in order for your perception to get clear. You got to get sober so that you can really reclaim your capacity for clear and precise thinking. That is one of the key reasons why you have been drawn to Orisa lifestyle. You're looking instinctively and intuitively for a worldview that will liberate you from the addictive personality types of the United States of America, right? And so one of the blessings that you will get from this tradition, if you really want to absorb it and internalize it, is to spend more and more and more time abroad, right? Not just going to Nigeria to do rituals and ceremonies. Just go there to be there. Don't just go to Brazil or to Cuba and just be doing ceremonies and ceremonies. Take time out to just be there and decompress. I'll never forget. I was an exchange student, for example, in Costa Rica for 1 whole year. And 2 things happened for me during that time. One is that I became truly fluent in Spanish, right? But the second unexpected benefit and outcome of being abroad for a whole year was, I'll never forget, we were in class, and it was about a month before we were scheduled to come back to the United States. And I had a class that was about culture. It was about, cultural diversity. I've forgotten what the title of the course was. But we were primarily talking about the relationship between Costa Rica and the, United States and the other Western cultures, because they get a lot of tourism. And one of the Costa Ricans had recorded a TV show, and we were watching this TV show, and they were analyzing it from their cultural lens. And it was cool. It was interesting to see what they observed and the different nuances and things that they wanted to clarify. And we as Americans, and fill them in on backstories and, innuendo and stuff like that. But here was the thing. While we're sitting here watching the show, at one point they had captured about, one whole commercial. It was one commercial, and it was a toothpaste commercial. And I remember as we're watching the show, segues out, fade to black, and then this commercial starts. And the commercial was like, 10 decibels louder, and it was all this bright color, and all these noise came blaring out of the speakers. And I remember the experience. My whole body tensed up, and like it was like I could feel the chemicals released in my body, just this reaction. And I was thrown off for like 5 minutes in class because my mind had gone back into American mode, and I was processing and preparing myself, to be living in that, cesspool of overstimulation, right? I was really, really thrown off. And I had to really sit back, and when I went home that day and think like, wow, I had forgotten what it was like to be in the United States. I've forgotten what the pressure is like in the United States. I've forgotten what the overstimulus is like in the United States, right? And so we as Americans don't realize the degree to which we have become addicted to all different kinds of overstimulus. And for those of us who are practicing Orisa lifestyle, it's important that we do sort out that double consciousness, so that we're able to get all the way into the root of how we think and how we function, so that we are genuinely practicing Orisa lifestyle with its original, true, and sincere, authentic intention, that we awaken within ourselves the way of being that is truly natural and organic for us, right? This is why our Ori is so essential, because we have to reclaim our original state of being, so that we're not reacting like addicts. We're not perceiving the world like an addict perceives the world. And that's an extreme statement, but I want you to think about it. Anywhere you've seen crack addicts in the street, where you've seen alcoholics, right? And you can see they're off. It's not just that they're drunk and they're high all the time. Even when they're not drunk and high, their perception is off and their response to the world is off. They don't know how to perceive and respond to things according to the reality. They've been a bit, disassociated from what's actually going on. And to a large degree, that's what we're trying to do as African Americans. When we practice Orisa lifestyle, we're trying to recover. We're trying to detox. Now I'm going to tell you, also as a result of my work in the recovery sector, every year when I go to Nigeria, I do a little detox, right? Because I drink coffee every day, and coffee is not really consumed in Nigeria, at least not down in the south, right, in Yoruba land. They have coffee, but it's really like hot chocolate. So every year I do a little detox, and I go through the whole process, right? It gets easier and easier every time I do it, but I'll never forget the first time I quit drinking coffee. I couldn't believe what I was feeling. I mean, 5-6 days after I had stopped drinking coffee, my body and my mind was still feeling the effects. It wasn't just one day I got the headache. No, it took like 7 days where I was feeling these different symptoms of withdrawal. Okay? And so the process of detoxing has a very real effect, and you need to also become more comfortable and familiar with what that's like. When you are purging your system of this undetectable influence, it's become so normalized that you don't even recognize when it has started to take effect in your being. But when you go through the whole cycle of detox, then you get an appreciation for the phases of liberation, the stages that you've got to go through to get free of this addictive substance. So I encourage you as a practitioner and a devotee to be willing to take that journey and understand that on the other side of your extreme discomfort is a true recovery of your authentic self. And it's something that's more precious than gold. And it's something that is more empowering than becoming addicted to, quite honestly, becoming addicted to beads, becoming addicted to pots, becoming addicted to the fantasy. A lot of people will indulge your fantasy of witches and your fantasy of enemies and your fantasy of all these detractors. They'll stoke that fire, but you're just becoming addicted. There's all those chemicals that go off inside of you when you start thinking about who is doing you wrong and who's throwing this at you and who's throwing that at you. All that's just feeding your addiction. You are the architect of your own misfortune. You are the architect of your own misfortune. You are the architect of your own misfortune. If it's not going the way that you want it to go, it's because you are making it go the way you don't want it to go. And the moment you accept that and internalize that and really, truly let that soak in is the moment you realize that you are also the architect of your own fortune. You are the architect of your own well-being. You are the architect of your own excellence. And the same capacity that you have to destroy your life and put your life into chaos and tumult is the exact same capacity that you have to elevate your life, to free your life, to expand your life. But you've got to take ownership of every dimension of what's happening in your life. And that requires a very clear and sober mind. Okay? This is a lesson for the leaders. This is for all the people who are really serious about improving the world through positive influence. If you're one of those people, I want you to find out how Oloye or Bafemi Origunwa and the Orisa Lifestyle Academy can help you take your practice and your life to the highest level possible. Visit me at obafemio.com or orishalifestyle.com, and let's start working to help you bring about a good condition for yourself and those who you're destined to serve. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now. Odabo.